Alrighty, welcome back everyone. I am Blaze here. Today's video is on the 10 things you should know for the Planes of Power expansion that is dropping on the 12th of February 2020. I'm going to be showing some video here of actually going in to the new zones. So number one, if you look at the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you'll notice that I've changed the expansion art. That is the Planes of Power art. This is something I wish I did earlier on this channel. I didn't put up the art for the classic of the Belius era, but I like to have it now just so I can show people what time period I'm making these videos. Number two, it is not just Planes of Power being released today on Mangler, it is also the Legacy of Yakesha expansion as well. It was sort of a minor expansion added back in the day for grouping content. It adds a couple zones near the bottom of Antonica, near the ogres and the trolls. I think you actually access it via the Stonebrent Mountain docks, which is in Otis. I think you get to that zone by Paineal, the evil erudites. But I think there's a Plane of Knowledge book that can take you there directly, so you don't have to do that big journey. We'll see. But anyways, Legacy of Yakesha, it adds a couple new grouping zones. I don't think there's any gear that's super noteworthy, but there's two quests I'm planning on doing. There are two songs that bards get in this expansion, a curse cure and a disease/poison cure song. So I'm going to be making a video when I do those two. And now number three, let's talk about the Planes of Power expansion a bit. So a bunch of new zones get added. A lot of this expansion is about going to various different planes where deities reside. So the first major zone, though, is called the Plane of Knowledge, or POK, and it becomes the new hub zone of EverQuest for pretty much till the end of the game. It's where everyone sort of congregates. I don't think buffs expire here, nor do you consume food. I'm not sure about that, but I know buffs definitely don't expire here, just like with the Nexus and the Bazaar. So the Plane of Knowledge, it adds a new form of transportation to get around very quickly. It's these stone knowledge books, I guess you would say, and they're called POK books, and they're analog in the Plane of Knowledge zone itself, where if you click on them, they'll instantly transport you to a variety of different zones. So in this expansion, druids and wizards start to get replaced in their prominence and hoarding. Now with this, it's instantaneous in almost all major zones you can get to via Plane of Knowledge. And another thing about Plane of Knowledge is there is a sub-hub zone called the Plane of Tranquility. Plane of Tranquility is what gives you access to all the deity planes that you'll be going to. If you want to group for POP zones, or if you want to raid in POP zones. That's how you get to them. Number four, let's talk about spells, spell vendors. So Plane of Knowledge has spell vendors, and I believe also discipline tomes for all of the classes. So you can go to one spot and buy the vast majority of your spells. I think all of them for that matter. Except there's a caveat. I don't think those vendors offer spells. It's either 2 or 3 expansions prior. The Planes of Power spells that will become immediately available on this expansion dropping, they're actually quested, which involves getting these parchments from various different planar zones and then turning it into your spell NPC merchant, whatever it might be. And then they'll give you a random spell back depending on what parchment you send. I think there's 3 different types of parchments for the level 61 to 65 range. If you are struggling to find previous expansion spells, you probably need to look in the Bazaar, to be honest, to find those. Now next, let's talk about the new armor sets. They're called Ornate and Elemental armor sets. I think Ornate is good for grouping and Elemental is good for raiding. There's sort of these trade skill quests that you do. You get drops in various different elemental planes, do a couple other things, do a combine, a trade skill combine, and then you get the piece of armor. I think the elemental armor for POP is Rizlona's, called Rizlona's for bards. And it has instrument mods built into the gear, which is kind of nice. Next, there is a new inventory slot that gets made use of called the Charm, or the Charm slot. There's a quest line that gives you an improving Charm slot item as you go through various different flagging portions and planes of power through the various different raid zones. And as well, one of the perks of this quest is it gives you 7 free AA points if you do it all. Next, there is a level cap increase in this expansion up to 65, and that also means there's a lot of new AAs. Some really big class defining AAs come out in this expansion, especially for bards, which leads me to my next point of auto skill. So the auto skill command becomes available at level 61, and what it is, it's a great ability for melee classes. You can set a combat ability like kick, backstab, slam, whatever it might be. You can set a combat ability to automatically be triggered every single time that it is available. I no longer have to press the kick button anymore. The game will do it for me, which is nice because that's an extra 25-30% DPS boost for bards guaranteed, which is going to be great. I'm not sure about other classes, but definitely it's going to be great. And lastly, let's talk about raiding in this expansion. The final raid zone is the Plane of Time, but to get to it, you have to go through a flagging process, or sort of a king process, where you go through lower tier planar zones and do certain tasks in them to be allowed to go up to the next level. I've heard it takes anywhere from around 1 to 3 weeks on average to get to the point where you're ready to go to Plane of Time. Now, I've never personally done this. I've seen my dad raid in these zones, but I honestly don't have the faintest clue. So I'm not sure if that is 10 items total. That's what it was on this list I have in front of me. So that's what you want to be looking out for the Planes of Power and Legacy of Yakesha expansion releases. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next one.